Good morning. All right. It's good to be with you today. I'm blessed to be here and lead a ministry called Disciple Trips. And normally when I come up here, I get to talk about that. But I do want to allude, I'm going to do something different this morning. But I do want to allude to our three values. We talk about people and places and purpose. All right. In fact, it's even on our wrists, those of you who have one of our bracelets. But this morning, I want to kind of focus right now on this idea of a place, places. I want to ask you a question, and this is going to be a participatory chapel, all right? So we're going to do some singing later, but I want to ask you some questions, and I would love your feedback, all right? So when you think of a place where you feel closest to God, where would that be? I want you to think in your mind some of the places you've been or a place in particular where you just feel closer to God than anywhere else. Where would that place be or those places? This is the part you participate, all right? Where? The mountains, all right? National parks. Amen. I heard the Holy Lands. Okay, where else? Great places. Yes. In church, in worship. All right. Amen. Any other places besides those? Yeah. In my closet. All right. Hey, that's good. Yes, sir. All right. That's great. What place do you feel closest to God? Just outdoors? Okay. Anywhere outside, nature. Great. Well, I tend to agree with all of those, and not sure about the recliner, but in Romans 1:20 it says, "Since the creation or outside, all right, the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse." I'm I agree. I think when I'm out in nature and I see God's handiwork and I see at the national parks or maybe on a certain mountain peak or even at the ocean and just and the waves are coming in and just how vast and huge it is, I feel drawn closer to the one who made that, and I just have to celebrate and I worship him in those places. It may not be in a church, but um, I just his this creation is, I think, just draws us to him and draws us into worship. And that's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to spend some time in worship. We're talking about some of our favorite songs or songs that mean something to us. And so I want to ask some of you guys, what are your favorite songs? And especially, this kind of sounds a little morbid, but let's just go to this question. Is there a certain song you would like sung at your funeral? What song would you want sung at your funeral? I lead singing at lots of funerals, and families always, try to figure out what would honor that person, that loved one. And so, have you ever thought about your funeral though, and what songs you would like sung there? So, what are some songs? Just again, raise your hands or shout them out. Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone. My God and I. Okay, beautiful song. Great songs. Trust and Obey. Amen. What else? It as well. I come to the garden alone, and he walks with me and talks with me. Amen. What else? Any other songs you want sung at your funeral? Thomas's song. Okay. Interesting. Yes, yes. The 23rd Psalm. All right. Well, I asked my wife this question, and when Paul was talking about doing this series and would you pick a song, I knew I had to do this song, and that is How Great Thou Art. How many of you love this song? This is kind of a classic. In fact, I think it was one of those first songs that actually pasted into the fly cover of our books. Anybody go back that far and know that you just opened it up and it wasn't in the book, so we added it to the book and we just, it was just there, man. It was our go-to song. And so it was 728B before there was 728B, okay? Well, a song is really popular. I mean, a lot of people have covered this song, but you know a song is really popular when this guy does it, all right? There's the king. All right. And so lately, Carrie Underwood's done a great cover of this song with Vince Gill, and there's just a lot of people have sung this song. We're going to sing it here in a minute, but I want to share with you the story about How Great Thou Art. It actually is kind of a tag team effort to get this song together, separated by almost a century. It began with this guy right here, Carl Boberg, and in 1885, he was just about 26 years old. He was pretty young. He just writes a poem, actually, in Swedish. All right, so this is he's a minister in Sweden, and again, he's just somehow, I'm guessing he must be out in nature, because here it's translated into English for us, but it says, when I the world consider, which thou hast made by thine almighty word, and how the web of life thou wisdom guideth, and all creation feedeth at thy board, then doth my soul burst forth in song of praise, O great God, O great God. Do you hear the beginnings of this song from this poem? How great thou art. Well, it was just a poem. It really wasn't meant to be a song. It was just kind of his emotions from his experience with God. And later, though, years later, he actually heard someone put that poem to a Swedish folk medley. And so that was kind of cool. Someone turned his poem into a song. Well, years later, this guy, Stuart Hine, all right, he became a missionary into Romania and some other places like that. And he heard this song and was fascinated by it. And again, it was kind of rough at the time, so he took it and really upgraded it. So this was about a century later that he does that. And he spent some of his mission work here, kind of in Europe, and especially in the Carpathian Mountains. Okay, it's a beautiful mountain range that goes from Slovakia through Ukraine and into Romania. I was blessed to actually go there in Slovakia, and was part of the Tatra Mountains, or part of this Carpathian range. And so I didn't even realize that when I was doing the research for this song, but I've been to these places. So it's pretty cool, all right? And these mountains are just majestic, and you're going to see them here in a minute. And so Stuart Hine, having heard this song, it was kind of, the rough version of it. He then takes it and upgrades it. And these are the 4 verses that we're going to sing here in a moment. But the first verse was inspired when he was in a Carpathian village during a thunderstorm, and you've probably been in a storm, right, where you've just heard the thunder roll and know that, and the lightning strike. And it's just, again, obvious of God's awesome power. Then verse 2, he was, out in the woods and heard birds singing near the Romanian border. And then verse 3, he witnessed many of these Carpathian villagers coming to Christ. And that's where the song segues into, kind of like Christ and the cross and bringing us salvation. And then verse 4, he kind of writes later when he returns from his mission back to Great Britain. Okay, so we're going to sing this song. Again, that's kind of this collaboration between 2 guys separated by several countries and nearly a century. It's called How Great Thou Art. And if we can we dim the lights? We're going to kind of go from this time into a time of worship. And by the way, as I put these slides together, these are actual pictures from the Carpathian Mountains. So I wanted to kind of take you back to the place that maybe Stuart Hine was when he penned some of these songs. And again, let's let these words and these images really just take us into worship. And here we go.